Hello, everybody. Pete here with Crunch Time Coaching, and we're doing lots of video editing today for a new course called Consistency, Stop Missing for No Reason at All. And I am basically waiting for things to, when you do a video editing, you got to wait a lot for things to kind of render. And so I thought I would come on and do a YouTube live with the top three tennis tips I've heard from Rick Macci. The reason why I'm coming on live and doing this for you all is because we did it on Facebook Live a little while ago, and it worked really well. People really liked it, got a lot of value of it. And we're also going to be having Rick Macci for TennisCon this year. If you don't know what TennisCon is an event that we do online, geared towards players over the age of 50 years old, and we're looking to bring them the best coaching and coaches in the world to help them get to that next level. And Rick Macci is one of the best coaches of all time, literally. Andy Roddick called Rick Macci the best junior coach in the world, and we're going to be lucky enough to have Rick come on to TennisCon. And in fact, I'm going to fly down to Florida, and he is working with a 12-year-old right now who he says is the best 12-year-old in the country. And I'm going to be able to film a lesson with them. So for you guys, so first of all, thank you for the thumbs up. Come on in and say hello. See, we got some people now coming on in. And so what I thought is I would go through Rick Macci's top 3 tips. I've been watching a lot of videos of him to prepare for this on YouTube. And these are the top 3 things I've heard so far. So number 1 is run for every ball. Okay. And I love this tip for any age. Run for every ball. He actually has it. If you go to and look at some of his videos, you'll see on his fence, he actually has a metal poster that he made, and it says run for every ball. That's how much he believes in it. And notice the genius behind it. He didn't say get to every ball. It's run for every ball. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, is that you're not going to be able to get to every ball. You're just not. And I think too many players, regardless of their age and skill level, they'll look at a ball and they'll start to judge it and go, can I get to that ball or not? And then they start going, I can't get there. And then they don't start running. Or they kind of hesitate and look and make a judgment, and then they start running too late. It kind of reminds me of something that Bollettieri said last year at TennisCon. He says you have to, when you see a ball hit, you have to run for it, because he's like, if your mind thinks about running and then you run, it's too late. So as soon as the ball's hit, you just start running that direction. You don't worry and wonder if you can get to it or not. So when you do that, the power of this, guys, is when you do that, you're going to start, first of all, getting to balls that you didn't think you could. You're going to start to getting to more balls that you didn't think you could. Then not only are you going to start getting to these balls, you're going to start to notice that after a while, balls you barely got to, now all of a sudden you're getting to, and you're doing something with the ball. You're doing something, more special with the ball. You're hitting a shot that you can't get hurt on. You're just not tapping it back. And then maybe even more important than actually getting to balls that you didn't think you could get to, you're going to develop a reputation at your club, whatever inner circle you play with. You're going to start to develop this reputation of someone who hustles for every single ball. And besides just getting a reputation, it's like, oh, that person works really hard. They run for every ball. It's not just that. That's not it. You're going to start to win free points in matches because of it. If you take a look, let's think of someone on the Pro Tour who has this reputation, Rafa Nadal. Okay, Rafa Nadal runs for every ball. Okay, also Novak Djokovic, especially in Novak Djokovic's prime, runs for every single ball. So if you're playing somebody and you know that they don't give up on a shot, when you get a short ball, when you should win the point, what do you start to do? You start to second guess yourself. You start to think about, well, how good does this approach shot have to be? Because I know that they're not going to give up. It's not like I'm playing my buddy Stan, and Stan will just stand there after I hit it, after he hits a bad shot and I have the open court and I can just put it away. No, this person will run down every single ball. So when I see this short ball, I know they're going to be running for it. So I've got to hit the ball better I've got to hit the ball better against this player. And when people start to put that kind of pressure on themselves, they start to miss shots. Okay. Another Rick Macci story about running for every ball. He said that if you don't know, by the way, Rick Macci has coached the Williams sisters, Andy Roddick, Mary Pierce, Maria Sharapova, Vince Spadea, just phenomenal tennis players he's coached. And Rick Macci was telling a story about how Venus, who grew up at his academy, she won a tournament. She was playing Lena Yankovic, and they had a great match. And it went to a third set tiebreaker, and it was tooth and nail. It was like every point counted, and Yankovic hit this great shot off the court, and Venus ran and got to the shot, and it was a shot that was impossible to get. Not only did she get it, she got there and made an incredible shot to win the match. And after she won the match, they asked, well, how did you pull off that shot? And she says, well, actually in practice, I run for everything. So I've been in that position of the court countless times. So that shot was not impossible for me. I've hit that shot a bunch in practice. And that's because when you start running for every ball, even if they're out, so that's what I'm telling you. Even in practice, run for the out balls and play them. You're going to find yourself in positions in the court that you normally don't hit shots in, but you're going to get there, and all of a sudden it's going to start to be familiar territory to you, and you're going to find angles that you didn't know you had, and all kinds of cool stuff. So, tip number one, Rick Macci. Tip number one, that is a gem. Come in and say hello. I see more people join us. Rick Macci tip number one, that's an absolute gem, is run for every ball. Okay. And I don't care what age you're on. I don't care if you're 10 years old watching this, 30 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old. There's one guy I interviewed yesterday for TennisCon. His name is Jim Musel, and he became the #1 player in Texas in the 60 age group. And he said one of the advantages he knew that he had over his competition was he was in shape, and he got to everything. He got to balls. He said even before he got up to the level he got to, as he was just kind of okay because he picked up the game in his 50s. He said he was just kind of okay. The one thing he had going for him, even before he had strokes, is he could get to balls, so he could win a lot of matches. So remember that, guys. Remember that. Run for every ball. Okay, Rick Macci. Oh, I'm going to put here a link. If you guys want to get a free ticket to TennisCon, I just put it there if you're watching this. The reason why I'm doing this live right now, besides giving you guys all awesome tips, is Rick Macci is going to be part of TennisCon 2. TennisCon is where we have the best coaches in the world, and we're helping players just like yourself get to that next level. Rick Macci is going to be part of it. You can get a free ticket to TennisCon right now in the chat box. If you click on that link, you can get yourself a free ticket. So make sure you pick up your free ticket. I'll also put in the comment section when this becomes a video after it's live. Okay, tip number 2, Rick Macci tip number 2 is it's not necessarily the wrong way. It's not necessarily what you're doing is the wrong way. It's not necessarily the right way, but there's a better way. I love that. So Rick basically talks about his teaching, and he says, listen, there's lots of ways to hit a forehand, and it's not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily right, but there's a better way. Like he says, you can make shots. He says if you hit a bunch of balls, you can figure out a way to make shots any kind of way, but there is a better way. And I think that this really applies to our online community, and what I'm so proud of you guys, the people who watch YouTube videos, the people that are on our email list and buy our courses, is that they understand that, yeah, what I'm doing right now is okay, and I'm winning some matches, but I know that there is a better way. I know I can get more efficient with my stroke. I know that my footwork can improve. The people are always looking to figure out a better way, and just not satisfied with the way that they're currently hitting the ball are the ones who become the best players. I watch all Rick Macci videos. Okay, so we have Andrew Blickman on, and he's a big follower of us too. He says, I've changed much of my technique based on his teaching. Yeah, Rick is classic. He's a passionate coach. He is one of the best coaches in the world. And really, Rick probably deserves a lot of credit for what you now see as the ATP forehand. When people were we're hitting, like Maria Sharapova, for example. She's got a great forehand. Like Rick would say, it's not necessarily wrong, but when she takes a backswing, she'll take a backswing, and you can see the racket on the other side of her body. It's too big. Where right now, Roger Federer kind of has like the blueprint for the perfect forehand, to where he gets his racket out here, it keeps on the same side of his body, he holds it out here, and then he brings it back here, and Rick kind of calls this pet the dog, and then you go into something he calls the flip. So he says, actually, by having a shorter backswing and then going into this flip, you can create more racket head speed, more power, and make more shots, and you're also able to handle pace better. Okay. And so he says that is a better way. And so in general, if you're looking to hit better shots out there, the better way is typically short backswings and then going into some kind of flip. Rick also talks about the flip on the two-handed backhand. Not necessarily trying to change your strokes, guys, with that tip. What I am trying to do is challenge you to think about your game. And rather than walking off the court and saying, my backhand sucked today, or I don't have a serve, try and figure out what you're doing wrong. Maybe video yourself. Not enough people take videos of themselves. Video yourself, take an honest look at it, and figure out where your leaks are. I find that most people, when they're playing at the recreational level between a 3-0 and even up to a 4-5 level, they'll have inefficiencies in their strokes. They'll have leaks. And so try and figure out what they are, and figure out, well, what would be a better way? What is the one thing I can work on this week to make my stroke better? What would be a more efficient way of hitting the ball? Or what would be a more efficient way of moving to the ball? And you'll find that you will become a better tennis player because of it. Okay, so that's Rick Macci tip number 2 that I absolutely love. The last but not least we're going to get to, I just want to remind you guys, if you are watching this either live or on the replay, we're going through Rick Macci's top 3 tips for playing awesome tennis. And the reason why we're doing that is Rick Macci is going to be part of Tennis Con 2, which I'm honored, where I'm going to fly down to Florida. Rick is going to be showing me who he thinks is the best 12 and under girl in the country right now. And we're going to film a live lesson, but it's going to be geared towards anybody. Anybody's going to learn something out of it and get better. So I'm super excited about that. So I've been watching a lot of Rick Macci videos and getting a lot of cool tips. Now, his last one, this is a great quote from Rick Macci. And thank you guys for the thumbs up, by the way. Love the thumbs up. It makes me feel good. So last Rick Macci tip, he says, and I think this is so powerful, he says the best players have the best attitudes. The best players have the best attitudes. And sure, you go, that's cool, but really think about it, and think about what tennis, it's so easy to have a crummy attitude in tennis, isn't it? I mean, let's just say right now, my fist right here is a tennis ball, okay? And, oh, I hope that this is not getting a bunch of feedback. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm sorry if there was a bunch of feedback, but anyway, let's just say my fist is a tennis ball. Now, the thing about this ball is the ball can do so many things that we don't like. The ball, we miss shots at the most important times of the match. We double fault. It's inconsistent hitting. And so it's so easy to get rattled and pissed off and have a bad attitude. But if you look at Rafa Nadal, I think Rafa Nadal is the blueprint. We're talking about Rafa a lot, as well as Rick Macci, because Rafa has the best attitude, bar none, doesn't he? Rafa has the best attitude. And there's so many matches, when I think about it, there's so many matches that Rafa has played to where he's gotten down 3-0, and yet it ends up being a routine win. It ends up being 7-5, 6-3, and in 2 days, no one really even thinks about it. No one thought Rafa was challenged. But if you watch the match live, you might have gone, oh, wow, Rafa's having a tough time out there. He's down 0-3. But Rafa's that guy who's never going to show you that he is upset, that he's freaking out, where so many players would get down 3-0 and be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me today? Or come on, you could just see, I think 3-0 is a big number. I think being down 3-0 is a big number in tennis and tests a lot of people. You're either going to start seeing people freak out and have tantrums when they get down 3-0, or be calm and realize that there's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of tennis to be played. And Rafa is the example of that. So just remember that, guys. It's easy to have a great attitude when you're winning, but when you're losing, the next time you're losing, really think about how you can control your nerves and your attitude, and have a poker face out there. Don't let your opponents know what you're going through emotionally. That's something I learned from Jorge Capistani, who's also going to be part of TennisCon too. And so go out there and try and have the best attitude. One thing I want to leave you with, which I thought was a really good tip from this guy I interviewed yesterday, who's going to be part of TennisCon. His name's Jim Musil, and he was #1 in the 60 and over age bracket in Texas. And he said something that really helped him out is he basically would monitor his attitude and his energy. Oh my gosh, am I losing myself? He would monitor his attitude and his energy, and he talked about going from a high positive to low positive to neutral to low negative to high negative. And if he found he was high negative, meaning that after he lost the point, he was really, really upset with himself, he would then try and get himself to neutral before every point. His goal before every point was to get himself to neutral. Neutral attitude, start the point. And so think about this. You're playing a point, you lose the point, you miss an easy shot, you're in high negative, you're upset, you're pissed off. And then what you got to do in your 25 seconds is you got to figure out a way to get yourself back down to neutral. You can go to low negative to neutral. You're like, okay, now I'm ready to play. Or it could be the opposite. You could go up to high positive. You could win at a very exciting point. Your adrenaline's pumping. You're like almost too amped up. Maybe you hit a screaming winner down the line. You want to do it again. And then if you just stay in high positive, you might be so just amped up that you hit the next ball on the fence. Well, that's not good either. So he talked about the importance of going down to neutral to play the point. So there you go, guys. There's your top 3 tips where you want to. #1, Rick Macci tip is run for every ball. #2 is there's not a right way, there's not a wrong way, there's just a better way. And #3 is the best players have the best attitude. Thank you for watching, and everybody have a great day, and we'll see you on future videos. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for the compliment.